Hello my people and welcome to Fintech Chatter, the podcast where I chat to fintech leaders about their secrets to success. I'm Dexter Cousins, your host and the founder of Tier 1 People, the executive search firm that's dedicated to helping fintech companies hire exceptional people. Welcome to the final part on our series of housing affordability. And today's guest is Dean Fraser, founder of Brickfloor. Dean, welcome back.
Thanks very much, Dexter. Great to be back after a few years.
Yeah, mate, it is. I'm trying to think. It would have been about 3 or 4 years.
I think that's right. I haven't checked
on the show.
Date, but
so, mate, well done for surviving this far.
Well, exactly. There's a lot of ups and downs for a lot of these startups.
Absolutely. So, mate, we're going to talk a little bit about Brickfloor and the problem as you see it. But before we do, maybe if you can just share with our listeners who perhaps haven't heard the previous episode that I've done with you, just a little bit about Brickfloor and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So we are a property technology and fintech business that's focused on two main things. One, we're looking to institutionalize residential property as an asset class, which is, it's a big word, but what we actually mean by that is building a platform of homes that creates sort of a bigger rental pool in Australia and longer term rentals for renters. So really looking to improve the lives of renters, and also through that platform to open up access to residential property as an asset class without putting upward pressure on prices. So effectively, letting people build wealth through resi, particularly those people who can't afford to build wealth through resi, like forever renters. So that's a platform of homes effectively as a proposition. Also becomes relevant to institutional investors, wholesale investors, as well as those renters who are looking to build wealth. But the other part of the model is really our feeder to that fund, which is a product called a market price guarantee. So effectively, it's a product that gives 100% selling certainty to a home seller. So if you go out to most home sellers in the Aussie market and you say to them, you're selling your home, would you like to have more certainty in the sale process? Like, they look at you a bit blankly and go, duh, of course. I want as much certainty as possible when I'm selling my home. And the question becomes, how do you create that certainty and what will they pay for that certainty? But we built a product and launched and proved up over a period of 3 or 4 years, a product called a market price guarantee that underwrites a floor price for a home seller, so locks in certainty before the seller has listed. They then take their home to market, they appoint their agent, they run a private seller auction campaign, knowing from day one the home is guaranteed to sell for a pre-agreed price, say $1 million. They either find someone willing to pay more than the mill, in which case they sell to the third party for that high price at the end of that auction or private sale campaign. If they don't find anyone, we're happy to step in and buy that home. We put it into our property fund. We then rent those homes out to renters. We've got an affordable housing allocation piece, or an intention to create that piece or that slice of homes where they'll be rented out for cheaper rates of rent. But essentially giving that the ability for people to have certainty in one of life's most stressful events, a home sale insurance product.
So, I mean, since we last spoke, the problem, particularly for renters, is only compounded really by the cost of living and the rapid increase in rents as well. Have you seen around actually solving that problem? Because I think if you kind of look at the complexity of not only the problem that you're solving, but the complexity of the solution that you then have to come up with to solve that problem, there's a lot of different, I'd say, kind of stakeholders there that you're trying to bring together and create a solution for. How have you gone about tackling that?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of different moving parts. In essence, we have a fund and a sale guarantee product in simple essence, but there are a lot of different stakeholders that we think that the product appeals to. I mean, we really started off our life as building effectively like an insurance product for a home seller. So that was the core product. But we also felt that there was a need to create a financial product effectively. And I've got to be careful when I say this, because when I say it, I want to be clear that we're not trying to create more demand for residential property and getting institutional money into the asset class to create more demand and to push prices up. It's more about, we are a default buyer when there's no market buyer for a seller's home. So we protect the seller from opportunistic below market offers or from no offers, But if there's a normal market at a market price, we don't end up buying that home even though it's
Yeah.
under. But so we felt at the same time like a lot of Aussies have built significant wealth out of
Yeah.
residential property. A lot of tech founders who go on to make a lot of money end up putting a lot of money back into the resi market. So how do you enable that access to the market to be kind of equal, in equal in inverted commas, because it's probably never going to be perfectly equal. But how do you give more access to people that can't afford to get onto the ladder, that want to effectively save potentially their first dollar, or first small amounts of capital through our fund, which I'll come on to. But we've created a product around that would effectively create a property linked savings account through saving for your first home, through putting your money day one into
Yeah.
a property fund. But yeah, so we started thinking around the market price guarantee product. We needed to back up that guarantee with a balance sheet effectively, which was the fund, and we felt like this fund proposition would even out the property haves and property have-nots, or property exposure haves and property exposure have-nots, through making it easy to access. And then there's been a lot of ancillary products that have kind of flow out of what we've built that we're looking to execute on. We haven't executed on all of them, but we're building partnerships around both sides of our model, the fund and also the sale guarantee product.
Yeah. Yeah. When did Brickfloor launch?
We launched in February 2019. We launched, we went out to market. We did our Series A back in November 18, and we raised sort of 6 million for our business. And then we had a $52 million property fund, both debt and equity. And then we launched into market. Unfortunately for a lot of businesses, we then had this big nasty thing called COVID, and we basically had put out offers, bought homes. We'd proven out our sale guarantee product in terms of desirability for certainty from home sellers, and what they pay for that product, and how do we position that product to a seller. And what we hadn't proven up at that point when COVID kicked in was the quality of our property fund, i.e. when we're buying the homes, are we buying the lemons or are we buying good quality homes? And we always
Yeah.
felt like through our process that we're screening out poor quality homes, only buying good quality homes. But the proof is in the pudding. So we needed to then build a track record for that fund of at least 3 years, which we ended
Yeah.
up doing. And we outperformed the general property market, the CoreLogic Index, quite significantly. And now we're looking to sort of scale both parts of the business. But yeah, so it's been a journey impacted by COVID, also impacted by our model, which is basically, to make this work, we need to show that, at least over a period of 3 years, the fund has performed, because that's our
Yeah.
engine
Yeah.
to basically then drive more offers out into market.
Yeah. And look, it's just one of the recurring issues of everybody that I've spoken to. We got incredible, I think, incredible ideas, incredible solutions, and real kind of genuine push to solve the problem. It's compounded though by the fact that this is a long play, right? Like, it's not let's build a AI business and it's worth $1 billion in 2 years. It's a 10-year play of, as you pointed out, proving out the model, proving out the fund, proving out the quality of the properties, all of those things that you just take time. And as you know way better than me, Dean, time is not a luxury that capital affords. And it's like, how do you accelerate that? And there's just no way that you can accelerate it, right? And we've got an environment here in Oz where we don't have the most patient of investors as well. And so it's a real kind of challenge for anybody who's coming into this space trying to solve the problem, that not only have you got the complexity of the problem, the regulatory hurdles and all of those other things, but you've then got this time factor that it's very, very difficult to accelerate or bypass that at all.
Yeah, totally. And you've really got to find the right investor base for your business that is
Yeah.
patient, long-term capital. If generalization, but if you're looking at VC, like, they've got sort of high hurdles and KPIs over tight timeframes, and the longer the time frame, the IRRs drop. So
Yeah.
it's all about getting kind of quick in inverted commas returns. I mean, there probably are exceptions, but as a general rule, whereas you need to find that sort of longer term patient capital, and you
Yeah.
hear a lot of fintechs, prop techs talking about sort of trying to find that patient capital, whether it's from super funds or family offices,
Yeah.
which can also be obviously challenging, because super funds are very, very conservative and not first movers. And family offices, there's no one common family office. They're all different. They all have different views on
Yeah.
property. they're all experts on property too. Like everyone is in Australia, it's either the market's too high, it's too low, it's flatlining, like all that sort of stuff. So it
Yeah, I
is.
think we've been in a property bubble for the 20 years that I've been here. It's, yeah. Uh, so talk me through, I guess, some of the challenges that you faced, that, particularly on the regulatory side, because you're creating a product that doesn't exist. What did you have to do there around kind of getting the regulators on side and
Well,
navigate through that?
for us, the regulatory side hasn't been particularly difficult because while our product is very different, particularly the market price guarantee product, the actual fund proposition it's a unit trust. And
Yeah,
so, yes, you need AFSL or a car being a corporate authorized rep of an AFSL holder because you're issuing a financial product being the units in the fund. But that's all been done thousands of times before. So not much friction in terms of regulatory from that point of view. Our actual market price guarantee product is a put option over a physical property that's not cash settled, it's delivered, which is an exception under the corporations regulations around it being regarded as a financial product, which means you don't need licensing around that particular product. So it's not technically an insurance. It's a guaranteed price that is effectively not required to have licensing around that. But even if we needed to have licensing around that, I think that wouldn't particularly be problematic. You just need to have someone who has a license to deal in options effectively, which there are AFSL holders that have that. We haven't got our own AFSL. We've always decided to, initially at this stage of our journey, to basically partner with the right type of AFSL holder and become a corporate authorised rep. So
yeah,
the compliance bit the regulatory side hasn't been super difficult, which I think is maybe quite different to some other fintechs and proptechs out there. I think where the challenge for us has been, like, initially when we launched it's around, we're creating a new product, a sale guarantee product, and people were like, well, what the hell is this? How does this work? Are you just going to buy our home outright from us? Is it going to be like a lowball price that you're going to give us? And so we had to kind of really talk about what the product did and how it was sort of a floor price, giving you a springboard to get a better outcome. But if you can't get a better outcome, then we're going to buy it and sort of save your bacon in inverted
yeah,
commas. So it was more around positioning and having a new product category in market. Like, people don't understand what that is. They also don't know how much to value it at. So we went through sort of qual and quant research around pricing of our product 4 or 5 years ago. And some people would say, oh, we think that product is worth $500 to give a guaranteed outcome on my $1 million home. It's like, okay. Then we had other people saying we think it's worth 5% of the home value. So that's going from $500 to $50,000.
yeah,
So really big variations in what people saw in it as value, and us being able to describe what is the value for our product. Is it just certainty, and we ended up discovering it's not just certainty and peace of
yeah.
mind, which is hard to kind of price. It's an insurance, but how do you price that?
Mate,
From the
yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking, I would probably take the product out myself and then try and sell my home myself and bypass the agent's fee.
Yeah. And so interestingly, we ended up having sellers say that to us as well. And so we end up then having honest discussions with agents to say, agent, look, we've got a seller that wants to sell. They're motivated. We've locked in a price. Let's say it's $1 million as an example. And then would say to the agent, but that seller doesn't want to pay your fee. If you don't beat the reserve that we're locking in for them, they don't want to pay your fee. But that's also status quo for you, agent, because if you don't beat their reserve currently, they won't sell. You don't get your fee. So, like, status quo, except we're locking in the reserve.
Yeah,
Do you still want this client who's looking to sell? And they were like, every single time, absolutely, we want that motivated seller. We'll back ourselves to sell for more. In which
yeah,
case they would get their fee if they sold for more. But so they weren't bypassing. Well, in a way, so we weren't bypassing the agent. We're kind of having that transparent discussion,
yeah,
and only if there was a better selling outcome above our guaranteed price would the agent get their fee in that scenario.
yeah, yeah. And in terms of some of the successes that you've had, Dean, like, what you got any kind of customer stories, anything like that to share?
Yeah, I mean, look, one that always springs to mind is a guy that was selling a home, quite an expensive home from my point of view, like $2.35 million in, and he had actually had just kicked off his sale campaign, but was getting nervous about how it was going because I think week one's always the big week of opens for
Yeah,
inspections. Week two slows down, and I think he had a quite slow amount of people coming through. So he had Marshall White running the sale campaign. He came to us like kind of week one, week two into the campaign and said, look, we just heard about you, I think through Facebook or something like that when we're doing some direct to consumer advertising. And so we basically ended up taking him through our offering, and we offered him $2.35 million for his home guaranteed. And so he then went to auction. One person put their hand up at 2.2, so way below what we'd offered. Marshall White took that person into the room and said, look, you got to be way higher. They disappeared, said we're not there. But 2 weeks, so then after the auction, the seller calls me up, Michael, and says, look, is this product real? Are you really going to buy my home for 2.35? Because I've just had a failed auction at 2.2 and that bidder wasn't even real anyway. And I said to him, look, absolutely. The whole purpose of our product is to give you that certainty. And the only way is up. Like you're only going to get more than, you're going to get 2.35, which we've guaranteed, or you're going to get more depending on what happens over the next 4 weeks post the auction, where we commit our price for 4 weeks post that auction as well. And so he said to me, look, oh, well, so can I celebrate my sale and have a wine with my neighbour? And I said, well, absolutely. I'll have a wine tonight at home and celebrate your sale as well. But the only way is up from here on inwards. And so what happened is basically 2 weeks post-auction, someone came in at another person at 2.2 million. The agent was able to say no, and then to leverage them up to basically 2.4 at the end of the day. So someone paid 2.4 million for the home.
Yeah.
We guaranteed 2.35. So we didn't buy it into our fund, but the customer ended up getting $200,000 gross better off, 2.2 versus the 2. He would have sold for 2.2, he told me, because he'd bought somewhere else. But we allowed him to get an extra 200 grand gross. Net of our fee, he was about 150 grand ahead, which is a lot of money for most people. So it was a really good outcome. And one area where we always wondered, how does the customer perceive our product where we guarantee a price and it sells for above our price? We could then see that basically customers were able to leverage the fact, or the agent was leveraging the fact as an offer to get that higher price. And so we're delivering that higher outcome, on average an 8% higher sale price for our sellers when they sold to a third party. Or if it didn't sell, well, then really saving their bacon, because they committed their marketing fees. They wouldn't have to pay their agent if they didn't sell, but they'd sort of spent 5-10 grand on marketing fees. They'd cross them into Rubicon of selling. And if they had a poor outcome where someone was underbidding by 100 grand or 200 grand, that would have been pretty disastrous, but we're avoiding that downside. So that was one of our, good example of just really helping that seller get a higher price, really removing all the uncertainty and getting them 200 grand gross more through that leverage component of our product.
Cool. And now what can we expect from Brickfloor in the future, Dean?
So we're looking to really focus in on these housing issues that sort of you've been talking to a lot of prop tech and fintech founders around. So one obviously is where we see the really low hanging fruit for Australia is in better utilisation of existing home supply. So as an example, there's 13 million spare bedrooms in Australia that are idle. About half of those, it's estimated, are held by baby boomers who are not downsizing. So if you're able to encourage that downsizer transaction through giving certainty, and often the certainty component is what a lot of people who are aging, they want as much certainty as possible because little things stress them.
Yeah.
So we're looking at we're looking to facilitate, I guess, together with other market participants, this great reshuffle concept where you're utilizing your existing home supply better. And if you're going to unlock 12 million spare bedrooms over time, and if half of them, 6 million, are basically baby boomer held, and if those baby boomers own, on average a 4-bedroom home, you're basically releasing about 1.5 million homes into market against the government's target of 1.2 million additional homes by 2029. Not that we'll get there by 2029 with this type of great reshuffle concept, but really it's utilizing better existing supply better in addition to creating new supply. We think makes a lot of sense. It's not just about creating new supply on its own. It's about using existing better. So we think there's a really big thematic around that for our market price guarantee, because we give that certainty to downsize. And then also using our market price guarantee, which we're now sort of looking to partner with developers who are looking to develop new house and land packages, and what they're wanting to receive is certainty that their lots that they're developing will sell. So over time, we can look to extend our market price guarantee product to development of new lots. So then we truly are supporting the creation of new supply, whereas through underwriting downsizer homes, we're facilitating better utilization of existing home supply.
Yeah.
So there's sort of two areas we're excited about. And then also really launching our investment app that I kind of touched on. The fund that we've built, we're going to make it accessible to retail investors as well through an investment app experience. And that's really creating a property linked savings account where a young Aussie can put a small amount of capital into the housing market, and to really, only when we're buying the home, because there's no other buyers, we're not putting upward pressure on homes, but they can actually get into the market and basically build their first home deposit through being correlated to the market in an investment vehicle that owns residential property, and kind of dealing with that property haves and property have-nots issue. And then also then the app becomes a feeder to other products. So, for example, people doing shared equity type models that are looking for those people that have been nurtured along to that point in time where they're able to then service a larger mortgage through that shared equity concept. We could support, those customers that we've nurtured through their very early stage of investing into the market, into when they're ready for their first home deposit or their first home purchase, that could then partner up with the people that we're partnered with around that shared equity space. So yeah, there's some good exciting stories. We're going through a capital raise at the moment too, so which is probably less glamorous and exciting part of a startup business. But once we're through that, then there's some new product releases, including the investment app, and then some major partnerships we've built around both the property fund including with a major wealth platform, and also the market price guarantee with a major developer, a major lender, and potentially there's opportunities with the portals as well. So some really big partnership opportunities in the wings.
Awesome. And where can people find out more about Brickfloor?
You can jump on our website, brickfloor.com.au is probably the best spot. They can hit me up on LinkedIn as well, Dean Fraser, and just search Dean Fraser, LinkedIn, Brickfloor, and it will pop up. But yeah, if people are interested to chat or to partner or to chat, then always very happy to do so.
Brilliant. Dean, great to have you back on.
Thank you, Dexter. Awesome to chat.
As always, folks, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're new to the show, make sure you follow us if you're listening on podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe and give us a like. If you're coming back, thanks so much for your support. It really does mean a lot to me. And it also means a lot to great founders like Dean. Until the next episode, keep well.